This is FYI on Your TV, brought to you by Hometown News. I'm Kathy Botham. I have got Gayle Grass with me all the way from Perth, Ontario. Thank you for joining us.
I'm happy to be here.
You are a local author. We're going to talk today about Iris the Dragon, who's right behind you.
Yes, that's her.
And you have written children's books about mental health, which is so important. And you're celebrating your 20th anniversary. So, oh my goodness, we can talk forever here. But let's start at the beginning. You have your own journey with mental health.
Okay. Well, it was over 20 years ago before the book was developed, but my son was in first year university at Queen's, and actually, as we found out, this change sometimes happens significantly with children, and they do go away to university, and the difference in environment and so forth. But he did begin to display signs of mental health issues, and so he came home. And then the journey began actually to try and find ways and means and facilities and treatments and so forth. And it was almost 24 years ago. There wasn't a lot. It's a hard journey for anyone, basically. But even then, it was harder. And we were fortunate, though. We were able to get an excellent doctor at the Royal Ottawa. But still, I realized that, finding facilities and finding support groups and so forth was still a very difficult journey. And what we realized right from the beginning is the stigma. I mean, I was surprised because I hadn't had it happen to me personally before, but I was amazed at how even, I hate to say, friends, not that they didn't care, but they didn't know what to do. So it wasn't like having cancer or something where people could know exactly what to do and how to deal with it. So it becomes a very lonely journey for most people. So I had some background in writing some sort of type of children's books. I actually have a master's degree in art history, but I actually did it in London, England, and when we lived there. And I was fascinated by the whole history of children's books and why they were produced and developed and everything. And it actually is quite a interesting story there, because children's books back in the day of turn of the century, 1880s, 90s, were only to teach children values and morals and so forth. So they actually were very effective. So I thought to myself, why don't I see if I can write a children's book that actually is from the point of view of a child who actually is able to, who meets Iris, imaginary character, in a very safe place, and and Iris is be able to communicate. And I think that is one of the big factors with any children, is they don't know how to communicate. They don't have the words that can talk about their feelings and worries and so forth. So Iris was a very fun character to work with. And because she is imaginary, but she basically, her characteristics are that she is magical, but she really can understand and what children are feeling and how to give them the ability to communicate the words and help them along their journey. And by using that as our hero, we were able to develop or use talking about many different topics in a very much more friendly environment than just talking outright. And we found that it was very effective. And we always worked right from the beginning with top doctors at CHEO and sick kids. We were really from the point of view of more preventative and not trying to give any sort of type of recommend medication or anything like that. But we really wanted just to ensure that the books were accurate and vetted. So we've had a long-standing history with CHEO right from the very beginning, which has been wonderful. And so that was the first book came out, and the success was amazing.
And the way you can tell the story, and it's like you say, you're not suggesting medication or types of therapy, that sort of stuff. It opens the door.
Exactly. And the other big thing we realized is we got so many letters from the moms and so forth, is that the children realized, and the mothers, that they weren't alone. They're not the only one on this journey. And I think that gave them hope. And obviously, once you have hope, you can start to deal with the issues.
That's right. Again, it's that stigma you were talking about earlier too. There wasn't a lot of support group back then. There wasn't a lot of, oh my goodness, I'm seeing this in my child, or maybe the child seeing them in themselves, and they didn't know what to do. But when you read a storybook, and it opens the door. It really opens the door to conversation, or maybe, a parent thinking, yeah, maybe I need to get some help.
Exactly, and interesting that the whole concept of telling a story, it was sort of new in those. But now everyone talks about what is your story, and because you can change your story, and that's the other important thing. It opens up that you are able not to be stuck or where you are, but you can change your story and start to seek help and seek resources and so forth. And it's not a dead end. Your journey, it's a beginning.
That's
Which
right. That's right. Now, you've been doing this for 20 years. You've written 7 books in all?
7 books, yes. We just came out with a new one on the pandemic. We felt that was very essential. We wanted to, again, make kids understand that, feel that it was not normal, but the reason they're wearing masks and so forth and sanitation is because of the virus, but everyone else is also doing the same thing, and give them some, encouragement and everything. And the book itself gives them a bit of more control. I think when you have more control yourself, what Iris has is a special magic wand, and it is to help kids and everyone feel it better. So she gives her secret away in this book on how they can make their own magic wands to help themselves and others. So it says kids can be superheroes, is the book, and that way they have some control over also contributing.
That's right. That's right too. And so often when we think and talk about mental health, we think it's something that happens to adults, and it
Mm.
isn't. It happens to children as well.
It was interesting. 20 years when we brought the book out, did have the only criticism we had was that from some, not many, was that kids can't have a mental health issue. So why are you even mentioning it? Well, we knew that wasn't true, and all the doctors that we had support for and everything totally, agreed with us. Um, and so, yes, no, children. It's life's traumas. I mean, it affects us all at any age, and that's the thing. Stress, all these other. Unfortunately, we have a lot of stress in our lives and environment and so forth. So certainly, the children have respond the same way as adults do to the different stressors.
And it's like you say too. It's stressors too. You may be able to have controlled it or kept it inside, but then it is something traumatic. There's a life-changing thing. Going to university, the pandemic. There's certain things that just trigger things that yeah, I need some help. It's here now. I need some help.
Yes, and I think this is what didn't think of the brain as needing, the mental health or the brain itself. It was always from the neck down. We'll deal with any physical elements or stuff, but the brain is just as important, if not more so. And so I think what we're trying to teach too is that children should really, and adults, everyone, um, it's a total body approach to good health. And that's what's so important. And the more you find out what you can do about your mental health your physical health, you will hopefully maintain. You won't. It's a preventative measure basically too.
That's right. That's right. And just because it wasn't there in the past doesn't mean it can't arise now.
Oh, exactly. No,
Yeah.
and we're seeing it. I mean, I know you are too. There's been a tremendous rise in children's mental health issues since the pandemic, obviously, which, as I said, is due to the stressors, the worry, the what's happening, what my routine's been changed, my schedule's been changed, can't see my friends. So all these are stressors, and their health is hasn't been as good, and that's where we need even more to address what they can do and try and keep them healthy.
Okay. Now I have to ask. Now, why a dragon? Why Iris the dragon?
I guess as a child, it was one of my very favorite characters. I guess I also am very imaginative. And because being a dragon, you can create so many factors that she is able to do. So in the stories, she can fly, she can swim, she can catch magic stars from falling from the heavens. If she has to be somewhere really quickly, she can be all around the world. You can make her um, solve so many problems so quickly. And of course, children seem to love the dragon. I have had so many letters from kids saying they wallpaper their wall with the dragon. They send me pictures of Iris. They have puppets and everything. Um, and I think there's also, I always have a lot of sort of metaphoric reasons in my books. The dragon itself in the Eastern philosophy was considered actually a very good character. In the Western, it was considered a very bad, and you had to slay dragons and everything because you actually looked at the appearance versus the actual personality. So there was a lot of a sort of metaphoric that way. Um, and the word iris, too, it just out of interest, is the actual flower of the mental health. And the iris stands for faith, hope, and charity. And it was the original flower in the fleur de lis. So, as I said, I use a lot of symbolism throughout the books.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I watched a video on your journey with Iris. I really like the fact that children relate to Iris, so much so that when you get letters, most of them are to Iris, not to you as the author.
Yes, no, they do, Dear Iris. And when we used to do a lot of puppet shows in the schools, which are very therapeutic because the children only look at the puppet when they're talking, and they talk back to the puppet in just, heart-wrenching, with some of their stories and what they say to the puppets and everything. So yeah, no, they're very, very therapeutic. But I think you're right. They do call, by saying Dear Iris, they're in their world, and that's where you want to often get us into their world and see what's going on.
That's right. That's right. Now, I also read that your books are endorsed by many people. One being CHEO, like you say, doctors in mental health have Sick Kids of Ontario, and hospitals all across Canada are endorsing your books.
Well, we right from the beginning, we did have contact with a lot of the doctors. My husband was on the first task force for the Ontario for mental health, and he was head of the Champlain district when Michael Wilson was head of the whole area of whole Ontario. And so through him, we started to get a lot of contacts and everything, and um, we were, I said very fortunate because we also were one of the first programs. We were the first program to be chosen when the Mental Health Commission of Canada started up to be examined and to find out why ours are so effective. So we had an empirical study done on one of the books by Dr. Heather Stewart, who's the head of Val Stigma chairperson, plus and a pediology at Queen's University. And the study showed that we were the most effective book ever brought out for children in reducing stigma, reducing social distances, and several others. It's always, we've had 2 or 3 empirical studies, and they're still trying to figure out the actual why they're so effective. They've done theory of change and everything. It's a secret. Iris only knows it.
There you go. How do you get a hold of your books, Gayle?
They're all free as downloads, digital downloads on our website, iristhedragon.org, www.iristhedragon.org. We have some books available. If anyone wants to call, you can, or email me at info@iristhedragon.org. We do have a few printed books left available. Other things on our website are, we have games that are downloadable, tip sheets. We have advanced over the last few years into other older audiences. So we have also one on mental health in the workplace. It's an app, and you choose your avatar and you play through different stages and whatnot. But yeah, no, we've been doing other age groups, which is good, and you can see it all on our website.
Okay, now I have to just ask about one book in particular too, because I'm a Christmas girl. One of them is called Catching a Falling Star, and it has a Christmas tree on it.
Yes.
What's that book about?
Well, that was the very first book. So that was our star book. And as I said, so it's the most important because Iris, actually, the story is, well, she's 900 years old, we always, but she does have this magic star catcher net. And the stars represent in the sky children who are not feeling as well. And so she will go out and catch the stars and bring them home and make them feel better and throw them back up in the sky. And the Christmas and the tree and the star at the top of the tree also to represent that. But the stars represent the children, and that's what her goal is to try and help as many children as she can.
So that was book number 1. You're on book number 7 now too, and that's available online.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Gayle Grass from Perth, joining us today, a local author. This is your 20th anniversary, 7 books about children with mental health, and they totally endorsed by so many people and have helped so many children and family. I thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Kathy. Appreciate being here.